Hello and welcome back to day 3 of the British National Diving Cup of 2023. We are here this afternoon with the women's platform final, and that will be followed by the men's 3-metre synchro final. I'm Jack Haslam and I will be commentating you through this afternoon's events, and I am delighted to be joined here by Yasmin Harper. Yasmin, of course, is the European medalist last year on the 3-metre springboard and the reigning 3-metre champion as well. So, Yasmin, how's training been going? Are you looking forward to tomorrow?
Yeah, I think so. It's been a bit different this year. Obviously, there's been no 1 metre, so it was yesterday straight in with the 3-metre synchro. So tomorrow's 3-metre, and yeah, I'm ready to go.
Yeah, I think 1 metre, Ross mentioned to me, obviously personally, that it's normally a nice warm-up event. Like you said, you haven't got that warm-up event. You did have the synchro to have a little bit of a warm-up for yourself. Were you happy with how you dived individually? Were you happy with how that synchro team is looking? I know it's been quite a last-minute thing for you girls.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I was pretty pleased with how my dives went, and you know, the timing definitely wasn't an issue yesterday. We came together and we've not had loads of training, so I was pleased with the timing and everything like that. We just had a bit of a slip on our last dive, which obviously meant we ended up coming second, but that's fine, and it's led us in well for tomorrow.
Absolutely. So we are now ready to welcome the finalists from the women's 10-metre platform. We saw this morning's event with some very high standard diving. Andrea took the title from the morning prelim with a score of 345, which is a massive score. Would have won the Nationals last year in both May and in February, although Lois did get a score that was slightly better than that, but she did use a 5-metre dive, which meant that she couldn't qualify in the top spot. So our start order: first diver is Elizabeth Powley from Leeds. Second is Chloe Johnson, also from Leeds. Start number 3 in her home pool, Libby Duke from Edinburgh. Hannah Newbrook is our 4th start diver. She is from Dive London. One of your teammates, Yasmin, Tia McGarry from City of Sheffield. And up to the back end of the start list, Lois Tolson from City of Leeds. Robin Birch, who scored a personal best this morning in the prelim. And then our top qualifier, of course, Andrea Spendolini Siriex. We will again just respect the national anthem, so we'll be back in a second. So whilst the girls get ready to go on the platforms, Yasmin, who are you looking out for today?
Well, obviously we've got the top 3 from the prelim, Andrea, Robin and Lois, and I think that could probably go to any of the 3 of them, you know, depending on what each of them do this afternoon.
Yeah, Andrea had a real incredible year last year, obviously Commonwealth, Junior World Champion and also European Champion, so she's really starting to add those accolades to her name. Lois is obviously only 23, but seems like she's been around this event for ages. Similarly with Robin as well, who, like I mentioned previously, scored a personal best. So we did get a 9.5 in there from Andrea. We also got a few 9s in there from Lois and Andrea too. So we'll be expecting to see similar scores this afternoon.
I hope so. I'm ready to see some good dives.
Absolutely. So our first diver will be Elizabeth Powley, just scraped into that final position in the qualifiers. Ellen Gillespie from Edinburgh just missing out. Elizabeth is a diver who does both the platform and the springboard, which I think is quite a rare thing to do both. Yaz, you used to do a little bit of platform too, didn't you?
Yeah, I've had a little dabble on the 10 metre, but, you know, I'm sticking to the 3 metre now.
Yeah, I do remember you throwing some optionals off occasionally, and then decided that the springboard was the one for you. What made you make that choice in the end?
Well, in the end, I think it was just because I had a bit of an elbow dislocation on a trampoline, so that put the 10 metre diving to an end.
Yeah, a lot of impact goes through those arms. I was very similar. Dodgy shoulders, they don't help on platform.
Diving is a body wrecker.
That is a very fair statement. So the judges are just getting to place. As always, give them a huge shout out and thanks to them for helping this event be possible, as well as our volunteers that never fail to come and help us out and make sure the event runs smoothly. So Yasmin, 3 metre tomorrow. How are you feeling for it? How is the training been today? Obviously the last preparations before tomorrow. What does a training day look like the day before a competition?
Well, today was pretty quiet in the pool, so I just did my dives on 3 metre for tomorrow, and that was about it really. It's just, you know, the last little bits to have a practice and then settle down tonight and get ready to go tomorrow morning.
Sounds great. I'm looking forward to tomorrow. We've had some highly competitive meets already. We've got a real strong field again in the 3 metre tomorrow. There's some big names, obviously yourself, the likes of Grace Reed, Catherine Torrance, Scarlett Mew Jensen, plenty of big names. So some good competition there to look forward to tomorrow. But for now, we are getting ready for the women's 10 metre platform final. Mentioned this morning, we've already seen some big scores. I think the highest scoring dive was Andrea's back twisting dive, scored 81.6 points. Robin also got up into the 80s with her inward 3.5, scoring 80 exactly. So, seen some big scores. What score would you be expecting to take the win today? Have you got any predictions?
I mean, it'd be great to see a 350 plus, I think, to take the win.
I think
That'd
I
be
definitely
nice
agree
to
with that.
see.
After this morning's prelim as well, they've got us excited. Andrea 345, and I still think there was plenty left in her list.
Yeah, as
obviously
well.
she did a couple of big hits.
Yeah, when you're diving in a final and, you know, it puts the pressure on everyone and start bringing out your good stuff, and it pushes the judges to give higher scores. So looking forward to seeing a bit of that.
Tend to loosen up in the afternoon sometimes as well, don't they?
Yeah.
So fingers crossed we can see some 9s plus, maybe, who knows, maybe even that 10 that we love to see.
We'd love to see a 10.
So I think we're just about ready. You see Elizabeth up there on the 10 metre, all the way up there. It's a long way up for us springboard divers.
Yeah, I'll stick with the 3 metre.
So to kick our 10 metre platform final off for the girls, Elizabeth Powley starts the competition off with an inward 2.5 somersaults pike. Going to see a little bit of a variety on the degree of difficulty. This one's a 2.8. We go all the way up to the 3.2, which is the inward 3.5 and the back twist for some of these girls. So first dive there from Elizabeth, inward 2.5. Cameras didn't quite catch the full extent of that dive. It just looked like she struggled to get all those somersaults round. Next up we've got Chloe. So Chloe represented Team GB at the Junior Worlds last year in the junior event. Came 5th, also won a bronze medal at the Junior Europeans as well. So clearly doing some really good stuff in the junior meets. She kicks off with a back 2.5 somersaults with just a half twist this time.
Yeah, that was nice. There was a nice entry on that.
Great entry there from Chloe. 7s from the judges. Of course, we have 7 judges here. Our top 2 scores and our bottom 2 scores get taken off, so we just get the middle 3, hopefully to take any of the anomaly scores out of the proceedings. Now Libby from Edinburgh. It was very impressive this morning. Everything was very tidy. Some great entries in there too. So a back dive pike. This one's just the 1.8. So execution is very important.
Yeah, she's gone with the required dive here, but it seems to have paid off. She's got a nice takeoff and a nice end.
Yeah, sometimes when the younger divers obviously competing at this event where you have to do the 10-meter dives, not quite ready to throw off the full optionals. So Libby just opting with a simpler back dive pike, but again, nice execution from her. Hannah, another diver who did really well in the junior meets last year, represented Team GB at the Junior Europeans, came second at the Junior Elites too. He's going for a forward 3.5 somersaults pike.
Yeah, that looked like a nice takeoff. She just looked like she needed to come out and watch for the water a little bit more on the end, but that's a steady start.
Yeah, sorry, get my words out. Divers tend to start with a dive that they're quite comfortable with. I think, is that fair to say? Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I think so. I think obviously it's preferable to start on something you know you're going to execute well.
Tia McGarry, your teammate from the City of Sheffield Diving Club. She starts off with an inward 2.5 somersaults pike. Good start from Tia.
Yeah, that's quite an ideal takeoff. And she's come out and looked for that water. Just like she could have locked her elbows out a little bit more to take the splash down a little bit better, but that's a good start from Tia.
Yeah, I mentioned this morning on a forward 3.5 somersaults pike just to help her get all the way around on a spin speed that she needs to get nice and flat in that shape, but on that in 2.5 pike, chest was flat on her legs, so that's great to see too.
Yeah.
Now Lois, back to the forward 3.5 somersaults pike.
Nice, that's nice from Lois. When she's doing this dive, it just looks so smooth to the end of the board. And she comes out and she's got loads of time, gets those elbows out nice.
Yeah, I think that's a bit more like it than this morning for Lois. She was very steady earlier on this morning, but that looked sharp. Good tight arms through the water, so keeps that splash down really well. Speaking of dives being comfortable on the start, I mentioned this morning about Robin starting with an arm stand, which I think is generally a bit more of a scary one for some divers, but Robin's so comfortable with her arm stands that...
Yeah, I think a lot of people on the 10 meter like to start with a front sort of spinning dive, so you're ending up seeing the water as you come around. So obviously she's confident in her handstand, so this one's a good opener for her.
Another good dive
That's
from Robin.
Really nice. Good start again from Robin.
Dived so well this morning. Sometimes a question, if you dive well in a prelim, you can kind of get in your own head and think, oh, have I got all my good ones out of the way? But from that start from Robin, it doesn't look that way. Great start. Now Andrea usually thrives on the pressure.
Yeah, I think we can expect to see some good dives from Andrea this afternoon.
Forward 3.5 somersaults pike. So we're going from a 3.2, this one's a 3.0.
Now she's gone a little bit over there, but I really like that takeoff. That pike shape is great. You can't see anything between her legs there. She's so tight in and got so much room. Just like she needed to come out a tad earlier.
Yeah, she was absolutely flying in the air, cruised that dive round, just like you said. Could have had another half a somersault to look at that entry. Just leaves her slightly behind Robin, who's had a really good start there, takes the top spot after round 1, 76.8 points. Lois not far behind with 67.5. And then Andrea, followed by Chloe, scrapping out for that 3rd medal position at the moment. Obviously, we still have 4 rounds to go, so plenty to play for. Next up, Elizabeth. Had a slight drop on her first dive on in between half somersaults pike. Just didn't quite get all the way around in the spin.
Now
that time flew round.
Yeah. The takeoff looks okay, and she just seems to have kicked her toes very high. She had a lot of room there, just needed to come out, place her toes and have a look to see where she's going, so she's just gone a little bit over on that.
Yeah, I mentioned Elizabeth does both the platform and the springboard. I'd say the springboard is probably her stronger event out of the two, but it's very impressive for any diver to be able to do both.
Yeah, I think so. I think she's having a little go on the 10 metre now to mix things up a little bit in training.
Yeah, I don't know if I'd like to mix it up that way. Too high for me nowadays.
Yeah, I don't think it's for everyone.
Next up, Chloe, forward 3.5 somersaults tuck with a standing takeoff this time. Oh, that's a real shame because this morning that was very, very nice.
Yeah, that's a nice tuck shape. And she's come out, but it looks like she's just reached out a little bit too far forwards into that end instead of down. So it's ended up being a bit short.
Yeah, a lot of the divers you may notice doing the forward direction. Some of them do it standing, some of them do it running. It's all down to the diver's preference. Often when you see a diver doing the harder spinning dives, when they're doing more rotations in the pike position, then they will do it with the run. So Libby with a second dive reverse dive pike.
Again, she's gone for the reverse dive pike, which is a required, but she's executed it really nicely. Nice takeoff and very good end.
Yeah, very good entry again from Libby. All this morning, she showed great line through the water. When you're slight and you've got that perfect line, you're going to enter with not much splash whatsoever. So great second round dive there from Libby. So Hannah with her joint highest degree of difficulty dive of the competition. She opts for the inward 3.5 in the second round. Oh,
that was nice. I'm not sure, but I don't think I've seen Hannah use this dive before in a 10 metre event, so I think this might be quite new for her, and she's executed that really nicely. She's come out very accurately and landed on her head for 6.5, 7, so I think she might be pleased with that.
Yeah, I love her tuck shape in that as well. You can see her knees tight and close together, nice round shape, really, really good to watch. Tia, this is probably the dive that she finds hardest in her list, despite it not being as high a degree of difficulty as the back twisting dive that she has. It's probably the one that she finds most challenging, so she goes with the forward 3.5 pike, starting with the running takeoff.
Now, she's just not quite got her pop out of the tower on that, so it's left it a bit short on the end. This is a new dive for Tia, and she's just recently added it into her list, so good on her for giving that a go. It's
yeah,
just
if you'd have
short.
compared that one to the one that she did this morning, you'd have had a slight notice on the spin speed difference. This morning she looked like she melted a little bit more in that rotation. Unfortunately there, just slowed down a little bit, so she didn't quite get all the rotations in. So diver in second after the first round, Lois Tolson. Reverse 2.5 somersaults tuck, slightly down on the degree of difficulty in her list, 2.8. This is the lowest one. Oh!
That was nice. She gets really high jump on that takeoff. Comes out nice and early, sees her toes, and that just goes straight through the water. Really good from Lois.
Yeah, I was watching Lois do a warm-up in the dry land earlier, and her somersaults on the blocks are so easy, and makes you think she could easily even add another rotation onto that on the 10 metre.
Yeah, Lois has definitely got the ping.
Now Robin, this was her weakest dive this morning in the prelim. 55 points on this. So shows even with a PB and a slight drop on this one, more in the bank for her. That looks better than this morning.
Yeah, I think this is another dive that Robin has actually recently added to her list just last year, and that was nice. Nice takeoff and really accurate come out.
Yeah, she used to use the reverse 2.5 somersaults tuck after having a few mental battles with that one. I think she decided to switch it out.
I mean, with the back to off pike, you do get the extra 0.1, so it's worth it if you execute it well.
On to Andrea. This is a dive that we've seen her nail multiple times in competition. Inward 3.5 somersaults tuck. Oh.
Now that was a really good entry. It's gone a little over, but she saved that very well.
Yeah, it's so easy for
pike
her.
Save.
She's making these dives so easy. I know, remember last Nationals in May, some of the dives didn't quite look like they were moving as smooth as they are now. Obviously, towards the end of last season, she was very sharp, but she's looking like she's cruising all these dives now. So there's our leaderboard. It's very tight at the top.
That is very close. That could go to any of them at this moment in time.
Yeah, the top 3 divers all use very similar lists as well, so not much room to manoeuvre in terms of degree of difficulty, so really does come down to the execution marks. Our first dive of the third round is Elizabeth. She's currently 10 points behind Tia.
Again, that's just gone a little bit over. That takeoff is okay. She just kicked her toes up a little bit too high to the ceiling. It needed to be a little bit lower and have a look before she goes for the hand grab.
Yeah, it just looks like she's lacking a little bit of confidence on those come outs, doesn't it? I think sometimes when you spin around, you have to kind of take that gamble and just make sure you're really confident on your kick out.
Yeah, I think they're quite new dives for her actually, so it's quite brave to be, coming to Nationals and chucking off a 10-meter lift.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, Chloe, you mentioned previously about the difference between the reverse 2.5 and the back 2.5 pike degree of difficulty, just the 0.1 higher here. Oh, very nice.
Nice from Chloe. It's a good takeoff, nice pike shape. She comes out, sees her toes, a little bit over, but that was a nice entry from Chloe.
Yeah, that's the come out that kind of mentioned. You can see the confidence. She puts her legs out, has a little look, and then she's ready to squeeze those arms back behind her ears and get that clean entry. Very nice dive from Chloe. Now Libby. Let's hope that she can keep impressing us with her execution and her entries into the water. She's doing a back 2.5 somersaults with half twist, and now we're slightly up on the DD to 2.6.
Again, it's clean. It's a little bit short of vertical. She looked like she just needed to get a little bit more jump and rotation on that takeoff. But it's steady and a nice dive from Libby.
Yeah, like you said, no drops there, 5.5. Not bad scores at all from the judges. Just lost a little bit of tummy tension on that entry. Just chest stuck out, so didn't quite go down as clean as we have seen her do today. Hannah, one of the many Dive London divers that are here this weekend. Seems like Dive London's taken over a little bit.
Yep.
Back 2.5 somersaults pike. Oh, nearly, very nearly.
That looked like it was moving really well. Just could have done with a bit flatter, a little bit lower, so it's just gone washed over from vertical a little bit. But I quite like that takeoff.
Yeah, cruise round. Mentioned previously about Tia having the 4 to 3.5 as her hardest dive to actually do. This one's her hardest dive in terms of degree of difficulty. Back 2.5 somersaults with 1.5 twists. We'll see this dive quite a few times towards the end of the competition. This is the first time we've seen it today.
That looked like an okay takeoff. That twist was nice. Just could have done with a bit, you see there, the pike shape, it's just a little bit open. And I think if it was a bit tighter, it would have brought the dive round a bit more. But I like that takeoff, and the twist was nice.
Yeah,
just dropped in a bit short.
Good jump out of the board. Just needs to close that chest down. She's got the flexibility to do it. She needs to close that chest down to her legs in the pike shape. Now Lois, we mentioned how tight it was at the top after the second round. She's got one of her higher degree of difficulty dives again, 3.2. Finishes off with 3.2s as well, so no let off in terms of the DD. She's the highest from the last 3 divers. Ooh.
Nice. A very clean entry again. She twists so nicely, it just seems to zip round. Got her hands down. Tad over, but clean and steady for Lois.
Yeah, again, good diving from Lois. She's putting the pressure on the last 2 divers. Do you think it's an advantage going before the divers in the final or after? If you're going after a diver, you know exactly what you want to do, but if you're going before and putting the pressure on, which position would you rather be in?
Ooh, that's a difficult one. I think if you're coming from the back, I don't know, I think it can work both ways. You know, if you're confident on the dive you've got next, I think it's great to see, you know, what someone's done and you can think, oh, well, I can do this. But if you're going from the back, you watch what someone else has done and see if they make a mistake.
Yeah.
So it can be either way, really.
Now Robin with the inward 3.5 somersaults took. This was her beauty this morning, 80 points. Ooh, very nice again.
Nice one. A little bit short compared to this morning, but that takeoff's great, and she comes out really nice little pike out on the end. Tad short, but very clean on the end. Nice from Robin.
Yeah, she's making this dive so easily now, and she's piking out at 5 meters almost, whereas before I remember she used to punch straight from the tuck shape to a straight line. Now just showing off how much strength she's got on this dive.
Yeah, it's great to see when, you know, they've got a bit of extra flair like that and coming out through a pike instead of just the straight leg come out.
Absolutely. Now again, Andrea, she reacted very well this morning after Robin's inward 3.5. She got 7 halves and 8s from the judges on this dive. Back double, armstand double somersaults with 1.5 twists.
Ooh. She's got good hands on that.
Very nice. When people go through the water with that little splash, always just gives you the wow factor.
Yeah, I like that. Again, when she's coming around, it looks like she's going over, but she just pulls her legs down into the pike shape and just goes through the water really, really clean.
Yeah, it's a real skill to be able to still go through completely no splash at all, even when you're slightly over or short, and Andrea's showing that she's easily got that. You can see the leaderboard.
Yeah, there's top 2 very close. Lois dropped just a little bit below them, but still got 2 rounds to go, so we'll see what they've got in the last 2 rounds.
Yeah, interesting that in this round, Lois has got the inward 3.5, which is 3.2, and then Robin has the forward 3.5, which is 3.0, and Andrea has the reverse 2.5, which is 2.8. So Lois has got the advantage of the difficulty in this round, so potentially can help her claw a few of those marks back. Now Elizabeth Powley, forward 2.5 somersaults, 1 twist, or full in.
Oh, that's more like it. That was good. Good takeoff. And she gets a nice clean end on that.
Yeah, I think that's the dive of the meet for Elizabeth so far. Very nice, full in on the 10 metre. Now Chloe, following up her last round dive with a inward 2.5 somersaults pike.
Nice pike shape. Start looks good. That's really tight. Just like she needed to squeeze her legs into a straight line a little bit more, so it's ended up a tad short.
Yeah, I used to really dislike doing the inward pike dives on tower because your feet come pretty close to the board, so there's a real trade-off between having the bravery to make sure you jump up and not just chop it down and make sure you get past the board without clipping it.
Yeah, there is definitely potential for a little toe tap on that one.
And the same on the 3 meter as well, actually, to be fair. Maybe not quite
Yeah,
as risky.
we don't talk about that one.
Elizabeth Duke with her armstand variation. This one's the armstand forward double somersaults pike. 2.4 degree of difficulty.
It's clean. She's got a nice pike shape over the top. She's just opened her back a little bit on that start, and her head's a little bit too down, so it's just washed a bit over from vertical. But again, it's steady and it's clean.
Yeah, when the divers are spinning around, there's often different ways of knowing where you are in the air. Some divers spot certain things whilst they're spinning around with their eyes, so potentially the water or a sign or a wall or something. Some divers can feel when the hips and the head are rotating. What are you, Yasmin? Are you a spotter or a feeler?
Ooh. I think I'm a little bit of a mix of the two, depending on what I'm doing.
I think that's probably a good combination, to be sound.
Yeah, maybe.
Hannah with the reverse 2.5, very nice.
Nice from Hannah. She jumps a little bit far away from the tower. I think she could get a little bit more lift if she brought that in a bit, but that's clean on the end.
Yeah, definite improvement from this morning, Hannah. Scored 44 points on this morning, so adding nearly 10 points onto that. Tia McGarry following her with the same dive. Just mentioned Tia does work full time. She studied biomedical science and has been working full time for the last year.
Yeah,
So
good on her for managing to fit all of that in, because, you know, not everyone can do that. Working a full-time job and doing a full 10-meter dive and rest. That's
and
nice from
clearly
Tia.
making some good improvements on a lot of her dives too, even in the training times that she's been able to get. I know
really
a few
like
times
that.
when she comes out of
Yeah.
back and reverse dives, she has a tendency to arch her back a little bit, but not
Yeah,
so
no,
there.
that looked good. And Tia has got a great leg line, so when she comes out nicely, you can really see that. And I think, you know, that's something that not everyone has.
Now, up to our top three and our last three divers. Lois currently in third position. I've just mentioned about the degree of difficulty advantage that she's got in this round. So here's her opportunity to put the pressure on the final two girls. Inward 3.5 somersaults tuck, 3.2 degree of difficulty.
Oh, nice. That takeoff is great. She goes so high and it just spins round so fast. There's so much time for that pike out, and gets better end than this morning, so that's really good to see from Lois.
Yeah, she had a bit of an uncharacteristic drop on this morning. I think it's normally quite a consistent dive. She doesn't look too overwhelmed with the 6.5. I think she would have potentially liked a little bit more out of that. Now Robin, she's got the 3.0, forward 3.5 somersaults pike. This was one of the dives that she scored some 9s on this morning. Didn't quite get them to count, but she got 2 that get ruled out by the judges. Oh, and again, very nice.
Nice. Seems like Robin's come to play this afternoon.
Yeah, I've been really impressed with her all weekend. Obviously scoring a PB at this time of the season as well, where you're not necessarily to be expected to be at your very peak first meet of the season that really means anything. So to come here, get a PB and dive like she has been doing is really impressive. Now Andrea, again, just dropping the degree of difficulty down here to 2.8. So the execution marks are ever so important.
Nice again. Not Not quite as good as the one this morning, but it's still nice jump, nice tuck shape, very accurate. Just a little bit more splash on the water, but again, it's nice. And she's still got her 6-7 points there.
Yeah,
so
she looked like
Andrea.
She stopped that so well. I think when she came out, I thought it was going to go rotating over a little bit, but she just long-armed the entry a little bit, slowed it down and held the rip as well. Again, it's still very tight. Robin's got a little bit of a gap there between Lois, still only less than 3 points between her and Andrea, and Hannah in 4th place, just having a slight gap opening up there.
Yeah, this is going to be a back twist fight off for the top spot.
Who's your prediction, Yaz?
That's a tough one because we know Andrea's got the hands.
Yeah.
Lois has got that great takeoff, and Robin is looking sharp this afternoon. So could be any one of the 3 of them.
Absolutely. There's Elizabeth Powley's last dive of the meet. Forward 3.5 somersaults tuck. Is definitely up to game in the last couple of rounds.
I think really well done to her for coming out on the nationals and competing both 3-meter springboard and platform, because really no one does that, so good on her.
I think she's the only senior diver to be doing both events, so like you said, that's very admirable in itself. Now Chloe, City of Leeds teammate, with her last dive of the event, reverse 2.5 somersaults tuck.
Oh, that looked like that was close to being great.
Yeah, I agree. I think I said a similar thing this morning. She looks like she's got all the fundamentals in there to really score high on this dive, just slightly over-rotating there, which is why you only see the 6.5s and 6, but again,
that's a shame.
Still pretty good scores.
That looked like that could have gone down for more than that, but still clean, just a little bit over.
Libby finishes off her list with a forward 2.5 somersaults pike. So she opts for the standing takeoff on the 10 metre. Obviously slightly less rotations means she doesn't need the same amount of speed. Oh!
Wow. That was a nice entry.
Yeah, not much to critique about that really.
No, she's gone for the simpler dives, but it's really paid off here. She's gone through a list, not really dropping below a 7, so that's really nice to see from Libby.
Yeah, great consistency all day as well from Libby, so really good diving. She should be very proud of her performance up on the 10 metre. Now we're going to see a few of this dive in the last round. And with the first of them for this round, back 2.5 somersaults, 1.5 twists. The joint highest degree of difficulty, 3.2. Of course, our divers have to pick 5 directions out of the 6, including the arm stand, which differs slightly from the springboards. So they have a little bit more choice.
That was close. It just looked like she didn't quite get into her pike shape after the twist, so it left the end a little bit short. It's okay from Hannah.
Yeah, it's a lot of dive. Obviously, we've seen the same dive but with just a half twist, so if you're going through the skill chain, this is the next step up. There's not many girls that do a different twist than the back 2.5 somersaults with 1.5 twist on the world stage. Now Tia McGarry, back 2.5 somersaults pike. This was her best executed dive this morning.
Oh, that was close. Nice.
Very
pike
fast.
shape. Yeah, it was. It just looks like she used her shoulders maybe a little bit too much, but she come out really early. So that was flying round. It's just gone a bit over for 6s on there, but it was a nice start.
Yeah, sometimes when you're spinning that fast, it's really hard to stop the rotation. So even though she did stick her feet out of the floor, just took her head in a little bit to try and stop her feet coming over, which meant threw up a bit of splash. Now then, the hot end of the medal fight. Lois with her back twist. Time to put the pressure on Robin and Andrea.
It's nice. It's accurate. The start is really, really nice. She gets around so easily. Just looked like on that end she could have locked her elbows out a little bit more, and I think those scores would have been a bit higher. But it's still a nice 67 points from Lois.
Yeah, she was around 12 points behind Robin after the 4th round. So that means Robin's going to have a little bit of a drop on this one. This morning she scored 62 points on this, so that would be enough to take the lead over Lois. Andrea did score 81 on this morning though, so she's got every opportunity to scrape those points back.
Oh, nice, Robin. That was good. That was much better than this morning.
Yeah, she's put the pressure on, absolutely.
Yeah.
67.2 there.
Let's see, finished on 3:46. I think, is that another PB for Robin?
Yeah, this morning she got a PB of 3:39.
Two PBs in one day, you can't complain.
Absolutely great diving from Robin. So Andrea needs 70.1 to go level with Robin.
Yeah.
Oh, that's going to be enough.
Yeah, that's definitely enough.
Yeah, I think that's going to be enough. Very nice again from Andrea.
She's really, really, really showing her consistency on those rips. It's very sharp, very sharp. Nice
And
to see.
I'm going to give you a shout out as well. You said you hope to see a score above 350. There
And
you
we've
go,
seen
Andrea,
a 350
354.
plus.
Good prediction
Nice.
from you, Yaz. We saw another 9 in there from Andrea as well, so good to see us finishing up the competition very strongly. We'll have the results coming up to officially confirm for you in a second. Yaz, did you enjoy that? Thanks for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
No, I've enjoyed your company up in the commentary box, so thank you very
that's
much.
nice.
But it was a great event. Again, just showing the strength of the women's 10 metre. Yesterday we saw the strength in depth on the men's 3 metre. Now we can see the top 3 divers there all going above 330, which in May the national champion scored 318, which was Eden Cheng. So here are our final results. I'll let you do the honours, Yaz, and talk us through them.
Well, so we've starting with 8th place, and we've got Elizabeth Powley with 191, followed by Libby Duke with 212, Tia with 219, Chloe Johnson 243, Hannah in 4th with the 254, and then now that's sort of where the cut-off line is, where it starts to get into the big marks. So we've got Lois with 334, Robin with the PV of 346. I'm really pleased for her with that. And then we've got number 1, Andrea, with 354. So that was a good meet, and I'm actually a little bit surprised that the scores are higher at this February National Cup than they were at the British Champs in May, because normally you'd sort of see it the other way around. You've had a bit more competition experience, you know. It's just been Christmas, we've had a little bit of a break. It's early on in the season, so it's great to see those girls pushing dives for, you know, big scores like that. So that was good to watch.
Yeah, it's definitely a great sign for the season. Obviously, we've got some World Cup events coming up that are going to be a little... We're not quite sure on the layout of them at the moment. Then there's the European Games. There's also a lot of other events in the year. So we'll see what happens in terms of selection, but the girls have all put themselves into the minds of our performance directors to hopefully get themselves on those trips. So some excellent diving from our girls. We will take a short break while the boys get ready for the 3 metre synchro final. Once again, I'll say one last thank you for my co-commentator Yaz. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me. I really enjoyed the competition, and obviously your company as well, Jack.
And good luck tomorrow as well.
Thank you.
We'll be back very shortly. everyone, welcome back to our second event of our second session of day 3. I'm Jack Haslam and I'll be taking you through the men's 3-metre springboard synchro. I'm also delighted to be joined here by none other than Yona Knight Wisdom. Welcome, Yona.
Thank you very much.
Good to have you back. I think we did this event this time last year together, didn't we?
Probably something like that, yeah.
Yeah,
Good to be back with you.
I definitely enjoyed it. I remember that anyway.
It's always a good vibe, isn't it?
The boys are ready to parade out, so we will get our start list for you. Our first divers are Todd Gigas and Oscar Kane from Southend and Dive London, respectively. Start number 2 is Declan Rogan and Oscar Wilcox, both from City of Sheffield, of course my hometown club. Start number 3 from both our clubs, Sheffield and Edinburgh, James Heatley and Ross Haslam, of course, your training partner, James Heatley. And our last divers are Connor Lano and Lucas Clayton from Southend and Dive London again.
No, this is the first time that James and Ross are doing Synchro in 7 years?
Yeah,
like
I've just been speaking to James's mum.
Yeah.
I think the last time was European Games in Baku, which was their last junior event together.
Yeah.
So they've both had quite a few partners in between that time. But I'm really excited actually to see what they're going to show. Obviously, they've both developed massively as divers since 7 years ago.
Yeah.
You've done a bit of synchro with James in the past?
You could probably compare their dive list to what they used all that time ago and it'll be completely different. But yeah, I've done a bit of synchro with James. It's always a good fun event when diving alongside him, and I'm sure they'll do great together. But it is a shame that we don't have Jack and Anthony in this event. Obviously, Anthony had a slight injury just beforehand and hasn't been able to make it back in time, so we don't get to see them perform against the others, but should still be a good competition though.
Yeah, of course, there are judges for you to look at, so obviously don't criticise them too much because they're here to help us out, and of course this event won't be able to run without them. The divers just getting ready to go up to the boards. You mentioned briefly Anthony and Jack. So Anthony's been struggling with an ankle injury, and then he also had a training accident where he slid down the board and has got a nasty cut all over his foot that's been infected. So that's the reason why Anthony isn't fit to dive. We saw Jack on top form yesterday in the 3-metre springboard. Yona, you're obviously familiar with that event. Unfortunately, you've been struggling with a knee injury after an accident yourself in a competition here in December. How are you going with your recovery?
Yeah, rehab's coming along well. You know, it was a shock for me because I've never been injured before. This is my first serious injury, my first surgery, my first proper layoff from diving other than the pandemic. Actually, speaking of the pandemic, I think that has been helpful, that experience, to prepare me for something like this where, you know, being in the water is taken away from me. I've got to adjust, I've got to adapt and cope with the situation. But, you know, I'm happy with how I've coped so far. I'm making good progress every single day. It feels better every single day. So I just got to be patient and do the right things to get back fit and ready. But in the meantime, it's good to sit and actually watch and observe and see how the boys are getting on, see if there's anything that I can pick up that can help my own diving. Because, you know, especially the final yesterday, what they're doing is phenomenal, and to see what level I need to get back to, it's really motivating for me to get back into it and push hard and do my recovery well and make sure that my knee is basically bulletproof before I get back in the water. So I'll be back, but in the meantime, time to enjoy this event.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, obviously not as close to you as I once was when we were training together all year round, really, but from the outside looking in, it looks like you're doing some real good work to make sure you get yourself back as quickly as possible, which obviously, like you said, the professionalism of coming back from an injury is part of being a top athlete. So
yeah,
fingers crossed you'll be back stronger than ever, and like you said, you've got another exciting event, hopefully a synchro for you.
Exactly. And
with Johan, who we saw yesterday in the 3-metre himself.
And again, it's good to watch this synchro event and pick up some tips and just see how synchro works and get a more bigger idea of what we can do to help our synchro performances
So our
going into the
first
future.
divers of the competition, Todd and Oscar, start with a forward 1.5 somersaults pike.
solid opening to the competition, slightly out on the hurdle position, but the dive comes around together really, really well.
Yeah, both very nicely executed individual dives. Yesterday in the female synchro, we saw a forward dive pike competed with some of the girls. Obviously, the cap of the degree of difficulty on the required dives is 2.0. So, what are the pros and cons of doing a forward dive compared to a forward 1.5? Do you think, Iona?
Well, for me personally, I find the forward dive much more difficult to execute because you're dropping in a straight line and you've got to try and hold that straight line all the way through the water, whereas of 1.5 you're still rotating slightly through the water. I find it easier to get a good entry when I'm rotating through the water because I can do my best work then. And obviously my long legs, it's quite a long way for me to get through in a straight line, so I much prefer the 1.5, but the dive brings a little bit more control, as you see here with the inward dive pike. Again, a little bit more control, easier to line up with your partner.
Yeah, inward dive, obviously a standing takeoff, doesn't have that extra complexity of having to keep the hurdle steps in time. Declan and Oscar with a very nice start, 45 points for them. Often say that 100 on the required is a good aim to get to those top marks, really. Challenging internationally, there's only really China that managed to sail over the 100 points.
Yeah, 100 on springboard's really, really challenging actually because it's so technical. A lot of the movements have to be perfect and the synchronization has to be perfect, which is also really challenging.
So James and Ross, of course, both impressed us yesterday in the individual. This time together, back dive pike.
Great start from the boys there. I mean, they've only had a couple of days to train and try and get back in synchro, and as you say, they've done it before, but that doesn't really count because it's so long ago. It doesn't help them at this particular moment in time, so this is going to be quite a challenge for them to readjust, but that's a really strong opener, 48 points.
Yeah, even down to stuff like hurdle step changes and everything like that can happen over. Well, you'd hope that there'd be a lot of changes over 7 years as well, so it's I mean, I for one am excited to see what they can offer because both potentially such good divers and together can make a real force. Our last divers of the first round, Connor and Lucas. They're going for a back dive pike 2.
Slight lean back there from the diver on the near side, pushing through his heels into the springboard, so he falls away a little bit. The judges will pick up on that in terms of the synchro marks. That slight discrepancy in distances away from the board.
Yeah, that's why we see the low 40 as the total instead of a little bit higher. Both nice individual dives. Can easily pick up that gap between the divers. So we'll see our results after the first round. We'll pop on our screen in a second. James and Ross out in the lead. Only a couple of points, well, just under a couple of points in front of Todd and Oscar.
Now the requires just set you up well for the competition as a whole, right? You know, it's trying to not make a mistake, trying to not slip too far behind. You can gain back on the optionals, and particularly the boys, James and Ross, you know, they've got such high DD. If they were to slip behind in the requires, they could definitely make it back on the optionals, but in the international game, it's a different story. Yeah. You have to have good requires and put yourself in a good position for the rest of the competition because it could come down to a matter of 2 or 3 points. And if that comes from the requireds, then that's not ideal.
So Todd and Oscar again opting for the 1.5 somersault. So they're this time going for inward 1.5, which is actually harder in terms of degree of difficulty without the cap anyway. Not quite as highly executed as their first dive. Just the synchro marks lacking slightly in comparison.
They've done well to keep the movements quite similar in the 1.5 somersaults, and we'll see a comparison when James and Ross do the same dive a little bit later on, but now we have a back dive pipe from Declan and Oscar. Let's combine their names together.
That can be the synchro team name.
Team Declan.
Very nice. Very nice synchro.
Slightly open on the water from Declan, just creating a little bit of splash. Really great execution from Oscar. But
yeah, a good sign from synchro always is if you can't see the person on the far board, that's normally a good sign that the synchro's good.
Yeah. Makes it a little bit easier.
Of Oscar there.
Makes it a little bit easier when the person on the near board is slightly bigger than the person on the far board as well.
that is true. Declan is similar stature to yourself, actually, isn't he?
No, Declan's really tall and he's doing a great job of working his springboard dives very well.
Yeah, one of the rare divers that is over the 6 foot mark, really.
It's not easy.
Speaking from experience, Yona. James and Ross, inward 1.5 somersaults pike.
And there you can see the slight difference in the fact that they've not been able to train together for too long. Ross just climbs a little bit higher on that start there. They drop into the water a similar time, but you can see the difference in the dive.
Yeah, both execution individually were very, very nice.
Absolutely.
Just like you said, the techniques between the two just slightly different. Connor and Lucas, reverse dive. Our divers will do 6 dives, have to cover all 5 directions. So the 6th dive is really a choice of theirs. They can pick any one of them that they would like to. Connor and Lucas will be doubling up on the... What will they be doubling up on? We'll look at their list now. On the back, they'll do the back dive and the back 2.5. Now that's the required rounds done. It's quite tight at the top there. Just 0.6 between Ross and James and Declan and Oscar.
And now we move into the fun stuff.
Yeah, where the competition really gets started, where you can start to see some gaps opening up when the degree of difficulty element comes into the competition.
Absolutely.
It's a strange one, Synchro, because sometimes, although your first 2 dives are the easiest ones, they can, me and Amy were saying yesterday, they can potentially be the ones that you're more nervous for because there's more pressure on you to execute them better.
I certainly find that I'm probably more comfortable doing my optional dives than doing some of my required dives, especially a reverse dive pike. I find that very challenging to execute, as a lot of divers do.
That's Todd and Oscar doing a forward 3.5 somersaults tuck.
We had a difficult hurdle there from Oscar on the near side, just a little bit in the corner, throwing him forward, and then with a forward 3.5 tuck, it becomes really difficult to control when you're flying that far forward.
Yeah, both divers showed some lovely entries yesterday in the individual, so they've clearly got that in the locker. Be able to put them together in a synchro team.
Same dive here.
Yeah, exactly the same dive. Can do a nice little comparison between the two. Sometimes helpful for the judges as well.
They're actually going direction for direction through their list. Same dive, just slightly higher DD from this pair throughout.
Oh, very impressive.
That's an excellent example of how to perform that dive in perfect synchro, spinning at the same speed, piking out at the same time. Declan slightly further forward, but that's a minor detail.
Yeah, very, very, very critical there with the slightly further forward. But I think that's synchro. Again, could barely see Oscar on the far board. Great diving. Now the DD gets ramped up. Inward 3.5 somersaults tuck, 3.4 degree of difficulty from James and Ross.
I see Jenny looming in the stands with a keen eye on James. She's slowly going to be making her way back into coaching soon. Wanting to see her diver do well.
Oh, very nice.
Really good. And the interesting thing here is Ross has actually switched boards between
yeah.
individual and synchro. They use the same board in their individual event, and now Ross has switched to the other board. So that's another challenge in itself for him, getting used to a different board. You know, they might look the same, but they all move in slightly different ways, depending on the way that they're set up. And also just the proximity, the placing in the pool, it's different for the awareness. So it's an extra challenge for Ross there to deal with.
Absolutely. Our last divers of the third round, Connor and Lucas. They're going with the back 2.5 somersaults pike.
Now a little bit loose there through the water from both of the boys actually on the start. They need to just stand that up, push through their legs a little bit more, with a little bit more control, and they'll be able to get that diving a little bit better. But you know, it's a work in progress, and they'll definitely improve over time. There's definitely some potential there in their synchro for sure. There's similar movement, similar power.
Yeah, both young divers, obviously, still at the junior meets as well, so to be here at the senior nationals as well should be a great experience for both of them.
Absolutely.
Now we can see our scoreboard. Ross and James just extending their lead slightly. Oscar and Declan doing a very, very nice forward 3.5 somersaults tuck though, which you can clearly see with the lower degree of difficulty. The execution marks were very important to just keep in touch. Todd and Oscar. And for a back 2.5 somersaults tuck. You mentioned that themselves and Declan and Oscar following the same list, with the exception of a couple of shapes.
A solid dive there from Oscar this time on the near side, but Todd on the far side just slightly leaning too far backwards, pulling the entry over and creating quite a bit of splash, which has been picked up on there by the judges.
Yeah, it's a tough event to come into, especially as a junior. I remember when I first started coming to a senior nationals, and obviously you've got these divers with big reputations and you know how good they are. It can be quite a daunting thing to come into.
Absolutely. You know, for younger ones to come alongside these kind of divers, you know, James has been to an Olympics, Ross Commonwealth Games, and some incredible performances over the years, to try and actually dive alongside those, train alongside them. Yes, it's daunting, but what a great experience, you know, so inspiring to see how these divers work on a day in, day out basis. You know, you can look and take some notes and copy and see if you can apply some of their techniques to your own diving on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah, Declan and Oscar keeping the pressure up there. Another really, really good dive. Declan adding this dive into his individual list very recently as well. Similar with Oscar, both executing that dive really, really well. James and Ross in the reverse 1.5 somersaults with 3.5 twists. That gives you the opportunity to really show off your class.
Again, excellent individual dives. There's slight differences in the synchro, and you know, here we are looking at the really minor differences for this pair in particular, because they do want to be pushing for those international events, and at international level those differences will be picked up more and more.
Yeah,
but that is a great dive, and that's a good score from them.
Individually, both excellent dives. I think if they'd have done that in their competition yesterday, they'd have both been very, very happy with it.
Absolutely.
You just see the slight differences. It's really quite good to kind of analyse the, obviously both very good dives, and just slight different methods in how to get to that final conclusion.
Exactly.
Connor and Lucas, another twisting dive, this time forward 2.5 somersaults, 1 twist. Very nice dive.
There, just to back up what I said in the last round, there are similar movements from this pair, and you know, there is a good potential for synchro in the future. Maybe both travelling slightly forward in the dive itself, but that's a very good dive. And again, individually, I think they'd both be very happy with their dives.
Yeah, I agree with that, Yona. I think very nice dive for them to finish off their 5th round. Sorry, 4th round. Getting ahead of myself. So you can see the lead just edging away a little bit. 21 points in front now for Ross and James.
And that's where the degree of difficulty comes in for that pair. You know, they're going at a list of 3.4, 3.5, 3.5, 3.8.
Yeah.
That's a really strong list, and as we say, internationally, that's what they're looking for.
Mm-hmm.
That will hold you in good stead if you can execute the dives well enough, and so far they're proving that they can.
So we've still got a bit of a scrap on for that bronze medal position. Todd and Oscar currently just behind Connor and Lucas.
Great dive there from Todd on the far side.
Yeah,
really
with
beautiful
that excellent
reverse
entry. Slightly taking it in turns with the excellent entries.
Yeah, and that's the difficult thing with synchro. You know, you kind of are trying to do your dive as best as possible. You're also hoping that your partner's on that same level, and you know, you don't want to make mistakes, but at the same time you have to focus on your individual. You can't worry about your partner. You have to try and just do your dive the best you can, and it'll come together if it does.
Yeah, we're going to see the same dive from Declan and Oscar, except this one in the pike position. So we get that increased degree of difficulty to 3.0.
Oh, that's such a shame.
Real
Such a shame.
First 4 rounds been excellent from these boys.
Now, it's really difficult on a reverse spinning dive when you land with your toes over the end. There is a chance that you might be able to get it off the board, but you're probably putting yourself at slightly more danger to cause other problems if you try and take off on that. So maybe it was a good decision for him to take the jump.
Yeah, real shame there from the boys. They'd done really, really well to get themselves into second position. Putting the pressure on. James and Ross obviously are very experienced divers in this event. Again, with another 3.5, you've already alluded to their high degree of difficulty list.
That's not bad from the pair of them. Again, we spoke about Ross changing boards, so he's got to get used to his hurdle on the other board. It looked a little bit more uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Now, I've heard from the divers that the inside board is slightly looser than the outside board, so maybe that's something that Ross struggled there with. It looked like his knees just moved a little bit too quickly.
Got a slight knee buckle out
Maybe
of
the
it,
board just reacted a little bit faster than he was anticipating. That's why he kind of fell forwards.
Yeah, again, both relatively similar entries. Both just a hair short of vertical and picking up a little bit of splash. Just Ross a little bit further forward in his dive. Moving on to Connor and Lucas. Got the opportunity to try and jump up into second place here for 3.5 somersaults tuck.
Great spin speeds from both of them going super high. Loads of time to pike out, almost too much time flying over, but maybe that's that little bit of extra competition adrenaline coming in there, and takes experience and time to learn how to control that, manage it properly. But
yeah, Lucas on that far board had a little bit of extra lean as well, which I think sometimes can increase your spin speed, but also makes it harder to control on that entry. So going into the last round. See our standings coming up on the screen. Fortunately for Desker, I've done it now the other way around. Got 2 names from now. Declan and Oscar. What did you call him earlier? Declan. Declan. Declan and Doska. There we go. Wow. 2 names for them for their synchro team then.
We'll get the names right eventually.
So, as I was saying, they're now 24 points behind the middle position. So, despite that failed dive, they've still got an outside chance of scraping in. Todd and Oscar finish off their list with a forward 2.5 somersaults, 1 twist. Currently in second position.
Really strong dive there for Todd and Oscar to finish on. Slightly lower there on the near side from Oscar, but I think they'd both be happy with that entry and both be happy with that execution. Definitely more to come with more experience in the future.
Yeah, I think they have given themselves every chance of getting that silver medal. They were very slightly in front of Connor and Lucas.
No, this is a huge challenge for Oscar to come back and focus on this next hurdle step, and this is what we train for. You got to try and execute it as best as possible. You can't allow the previous one to affect you, and it was again slightly with the arm flap, and that probably wasn't too far a different position from his reverse hurdle, but because it's a forward takeoff, it's slightly easier to work through that, and he was still able to do a decent dive. Yeah,
I've been in that position before where you do a bad hurdle step or you bulk, and all that was going through my head was, please don't do it again. Please don't do it
exactly.
again.
And you carry it through to the next dive, and there's only 4 divers. They haven't got that much time to settle down and reset, So fair play to him for getting straight back up and doing a decent dive.
So James and Ross finishing off with their big dive, 3.8 forward, 4.5 somersaults tuck. And they finished the event off strongly.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, I had a slight reaction to Ross's missed time there, but he did a great job of working through that. Really great job of working through that and making a good dive out of it. I think this is one of Ross's most improved dives recently. He's become phenomenal at this. Really
Yeah,
well
I think
worked.
that's a great sign as well, to hear that stomp on the hurdle but still manage to get the dive all the way around. In the past, I think he's obviously increased his strength so much in the last year or so that he's now able to deal with a bad hurdle and still able to get all those somersaults in, which
Absolutely.
is a main feat because that is a big dive.
It's a big dive, and he's come through a lot the last couple of years or so, surgeries and a lot of rehab time, and to come back and be diving at this level, it's inspiring for me personally. I've got to go through the same journey right now.
So our last divers of the event, Connor and Lucas, in between our somersaults took. Oh,
Slight shame there for them to end on that one. Just missing the timings of the release from the shape, and one dropping short, one dropping over.
really close for the bronze medal. They have just done Declan and Oscar by 5 points. So that's our little battle for the medals.
And there we go, blink and you miss it. Competition's done.
No,
That was
yeah.
very quick going through it, but a great performance from all the boys.
Day 3 of competitions over and done with. We'll get our official results come up to you very shortly. There you can see our champions, Ross Haslam and James Heatley.
Now, for James and Ross, this is important because, for example, one of Jack or Tony, let's hope it doesn't happen, but could get injured in the future, and they might have to step up and represent Great Britain in an international competition later on in the year. But obviously they've got lots of time to recover, and it's important to have good, strong synchro pairs, not just one, but you want multiple, because we're back in Olympic qualification year already, and it's going to come around very quickly, and Great Britain will be hoping to get those spots. So
Absolutely, and there you can see our final standings and the scores. Ross and James take the lead with 364.2 points. Probably not a score that they'll be overly happy with, but like we said, as a starting point, first time doing synchro with just a couple of training sessions together.
Absolutely.
Very good start. James has also had a couple of back injuries in the recent months, so between them the bodies have just about got back to full nick. So
Exactly.
hopefully in the coming months there'll be opportunities in different international events for them
Yeah.
to go and show themselves, prove themselves as a synchro team, and I for one am sure that they will definitely challenge for some international medals too.
And this will be encouraging for them, to think, right, we can spend a little bit more time working on this, and it can come together, because look what we can do with no training. So I'm sure they'll be making the trip up and down from Sheffield and Edinburgh over the next few months, and spending lots of time together, getting to know each other very, very well, as if they don't already know each other very well.
Yeah, I mean, James obviously as well, being currently coached by Nigel Mills, who formerly of Sheffield Diving Club as well.
Absolutely.
Tom Owens, Ross's current coach. So they've obviously all got a good relationship together, very familiar with each other. Jenny Leeming, of course, James's long-term coach, currently on maternity leave, so be looking forward to getting her back. Is it around April time?
April,
Am I
yeah,
right with that?
somewhere around there.
Yeah, so I'm sure James will be very happy to get back to that time. But Nigel's doing a great job helping him and yourself at the moment.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's been tough, lots of changes going on, but as athletes, you just got to kind of accept it and just go with it and do your best, because at the end of the day it's your career.
Yep.
It's not the coach's career. Yes, the coach can apply so much assistance, so much guidance, so much support, but the more you give, the more it helps them to work with you. So, whilst I've been training, I've just been doing my best to support Nigel, let him get to know me as best as possible so that he can work with me well. And I mean, unfortunately this happened with the knee, but we've still been maintaining a good relationship throughout, so I've been feeling good with his presence, and that'll be the same case anywhere else in the country if they get a different coach. You gotta try and work well with your coaches and just do the best that you can.
And speaking of coaches,
Yes.
you yourself have been on the flip side to what you're used to. You've been doing a bit of coaching this weekend. How have you found being on the opposite side of the competition, watching instead of being the one doing it?
First of all, I don't like it. I'd much rather be involved in the diving itself. I'm definitely have the itchy feet to get back involved, but I know I've got to be patient. But I stepped in and done some cover for my old club in Leeds, looking at some of the Leeds divers and watching them, and it has been really enjoyable. You know, I've been working with the divers, and they've been doing really, really well. You know, they were really coachable. They listened to what I was saying to them. They tried to make the changes that I was asking for, whilst not changing too much to affect their diving. And you know, it's been a fun week, and it's been good for me to still be involved in the environment, even though I've not been able to compete.
Yeah.
Because if I was watching this from afar, that would have been a bit more difficult, I think, for myself.
Yeah, so our divers, I think, are just getting ready for our medal ceremony. So we'll take a short break, and we'll join you back very, very shortly for the medal presentations. So I mentioned we had a short break. I think we are ready to present our athletes with their medals. Starting off with the women's 10-metre platform. An amazing event from these girls. Some massive scores all over the 330 mark. Last year in May, Eden Cheng took the gold medal with a score of 318.75, so that really does just show the standard of diving here today. Bronze medalist then from the city of Leeds, someone we're very familiar with now, Lois Tolson, been on that medal podium at the British Nationals numerous times in the past. Again, another good score from her individually. She scored 337.3 points at the Commonwealth Games last year, so to start the season off with a score very, very close to that is a good sign for things to come for the rest of the season. Our silver medalist from Dive London, Robin Birch. Very, very happy for Robin personally. She's got a PB in the prelim this morning and then another PB in the final too. So again, another amazing performance from Robin. And then, of course, our national champion for the 2023 British National Diving Cup. From Dive London, it's Andrea Spendolini-Siriex, following up a great season last year where she became Junior World Champion European champion and Commonwealth Games champion, and also had a very well-deserved nomination for the Young Sports Personality of the Year award. All very impressive athletes. Really, again, similar to the boys on the 3 metre yesterday, showing the strength in depth that British divers have throughout all events too. We'll also have the junior medal presentation following this one. Let the girls get their ceremony pictures. So now on to the junior medalists. Our junior bronze medalist representing Edinburgh Diving Club, Libby Duke. In her home pool, some really impressive diving from her today. Showing some great entries up from that 10 metre board. Great body line as she hits the water, enables her to go through the water with very little splash. In the silver medal position for the junior event from the City of Leeds is Chloe Johnson. Another diver who had a good year last year. Represented Team GB at the Junior Worlds and the Junior Europeans. Taking a medal as well at the Junior Europeans as well, so keeping up with the great junior results. And our junior champion there from Dive London, it's Hannah Newbrook. Another young diver with some really impressive stuff. The most notable dive in that final, her inward 3.5 somersaults took. Really impressive things to take away. That one sticks in my mind for the great tuck shape, good entry. I know Yaz also mentioned about it being a new addition to her list as well, or relatively new at least. So it's great to see progression from these girls too. So there you have our junior British national medalists. So we're ready for our last victory ceremony of the penultimate day of the British National Diving Cup of 2023. It's the men's 3-metre synchronised event. Again, myself and Yona spoke about Ross and James being back together as a synchro pair again for first time in around 7 years. So as you can imagine, there's been a lot of developments in that time, so great to see them get themselves up and running for the season. Some really good performances as well in there from Todd and Oscar and Connor and Lucas. Declan and Oscar as well, just missing out on the medal. Dive really well for 5 dives out of the 6. Unfortunately, just that one mistake from Oscar meant they've just missed out on this medal ceremony. So our bronze medalists there from Southend Diving Club and Dive London Aquatics, it's Connor Leno and Lucas Clayton. Scored a score of 272.88. And 24-ish points in front of them. We had Todd Gegas and Oscar Kane from Southend, and Dive London, respectively. They take the silver medal in the men's 3-metre synchro. And then both following up from a very strong individual performance yesterday in the 3-metre event. Our men's 3-metre national champions on the synchronised event. In the synchronised event are Ross Haslam and James Heatley from City of Sheffield and Edinburgh Diving, respectively. Score of 364.2. Well, there's plenty left in the bank for these two divers. Good for them to get the first competition together of the season. Hopefully, when the international meets and the selections are decided, they will get an opportunity to challenge themselves against some of the other best divers internationally. And I'm sure for one that they will be able to put a great challenge in for the medals. Again, we'll see them just get their victory ceremony pictures, and then we'll wrap up for our 3rd day and just prepare you for what we've got coming tomorrow for our 4th and final day of these British Diving National Cup. So there we have it. We can wrap up our 3rd day. Some more great diving seen on the women's 10-metre platform. And again, the boys in the 3-metre springboard synchro. Tomorrow we will have our final day that can see the men on the 10-metre and the women on the 3-metre. We have finished all the synchro events now, so just the last 2 individual events. So we'll have a little bit of a busier day, 2 prelims in the morning, and then followed by 2 finals in the afternoon. So hopefully we'll see plenty of you back tomorrow to support the rest of our British divers. All the best, and we'll see you again tomorrow.